Good morning. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. It's 11 a.m. 8th of December 2023, 3 days until we get to New Year. And to be honest, I can't wait to get the Bitcoin ETF news out of the way. Let's get it over the line and let's move on. We have got a lot to talk about today. We're going to go through Michael Saylor's purchase of Bitcoin. We're going to have a look at a couple of things to do with Ethereum, and I'm going to explain why all of the layer 2s are pumping. So we're going to cover that. We're going to look at ADA in two different ways. We're going to look at the ADA price, and we're going to look at the new developments coming in 2024 for ADA. Then, if we get round to it, we're going to look at $2 billion worth of theft that's happened so far this year. And we're going to look at GTA and Fortnite and whether their metaverses are going to come online before people like Sandbox and Decentraland actually get any traction at all in the metaverse. So before we begin, a big shout out to Daniel, a big shout out to Kishan, a big shout out to Hidden Agendas. Good morning to all of you. You're all doing well. Let's see who else is in chat. Sith is here. Malik is here. Zed is here. Good morning, Zed. I know a few Zeds. Stephen or Osa, good morning to you. Solomon. Malik again. Hello. I hope you are all doing very well. Let's have a look. Who else is here? There's lots of people in chat. Unicool. Well, we're going to get on. Good morning to all of you. I hope you're all doing well. So where are we going to begin? Well, we're going to begin with looking at the markets. Let's see what is happening. Just give me 1 second to hit refresh. And make sure all of the live streams are working, because one of them looks to have stopped, but I think it could be my Wi-Fi today is not the best it has been. In all honesty, give me a second. I'm just checking a few things out, making sure everybody is here before we begin. Where are we? Just give me 1 second. I am having a problem with one of the streams. I'm just making sure it's working before we carry on. Okay, sorry about all of that. Sorry about the delay. It's just making sure one of our streams is up, which it is. Their feedback is not too great, so I can't actually see if it's working. Good morning, MagSM. Right, let's get on with it. Too much of a delay there, just making sure we were live. So Bitcoin is back over 43,000. Ethereum's had a proper pump, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. BNB is up, as we spoke about yesterday. Solana's having a small retracement. Brogan seems to think we're going to hit 100, maybe $94 on the way down. I think his target was $88 for Solana. That's a good price probably to accumulate at. XRP is having a good pump, and Cardano has had a good 24 hours. We're going to explain why Cardano, why Ethereum have had a good day as we go through the stream. If we look at the market cap is up 1.71 trillion, which is, I think, the first time we've gone over 1.7 trillion. I believe. I don't remember reading that number out for a while. Bitcoin dominance is dropping. Ethereum dominance is on the move up. And we're going to go through why in a second. But before we do, I'm going to explain one small thing that we don't really cover an awful lot when we talk about getting all of the ducks in a row. We talk a lot about interest rates, we talk a lot about elections, we talk a lot about the halving, we talk a lot about ETFs and the Bitcoin ETF, then the Ethereum ETF, then potentially a Solana ETF. One thing we don't cover is the strength of the dollar. Now, we've covered many of these articles in the past to do with Russia and China, Russia and India, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, and now Iran. What's happening is a lot of Middle Eastern countries and the big other countries in the world, China, India, Russia, they're moving away from using the US dollar, the petrodollar, for trade. The US dollar is the reserve currency. It's what everybody uses for trade. Because of what's happened in the last few years, especially with Biden being in power, what have we done? We've moved away from the dollar. This is another example of this happening, which is Iraq and Russia are going to stop using the dollar to trade. Now, why is this important? Because it weakens the strength of the dollar. Now, one thing we're going to show you is that there is a direct correlation between what's called the DXY, the DXY. This is the strength of the dollar against all other major European countries, Asian countries. Basically, it's like a basket of international currencies and what the strength of those is against the dollar. I don't want to go into too much depth about it. However, what I want to show you is this. On the 6th of October, Bitcoin was at $28,000 when the DXY broke up to this area here, which is about 108. 108 is just the ratio. So, and it has been higher before, don't get me wrong, it has been higher. And it climbed, it found resistance, it's come all the way down. And each of these bits of news weakens the US dollar. Why is this good for Bitcoin? Because a weak dollar improves the chances that Bitcoin is going to move on to higher prices. But there is a lag, and this is what I wanted to show you today. So, beginning of October, $28,000 Bitcoin. Today, $43,000 Bitcoin. Look at the slope and then look at what Bitcoin has done over the same period of time. So as the DXY has been coming down from its recent high, it's dropped 6%, 5.5% in value, which is a massive move, by the way. This isn't a small move. This is a huge move. So it's lost 6% of its value over this period of time, and Bitcoin has taken advantage of it and moved up. I've stripped away all the TA, all the channels we've done, just to show you the impact that this has had. Now, of course, what's going to happen is that the DXY could potentially move down to here, this area here, and that would break the 100, which again is a psychological mark, but it could move further down. Potentially we could see, if if we draw the line down like this, we could see something like this, which would take us to about the 15th of January. We could see that move. Now, if we do see that move, what's likely to happen with Bitcoin? Well, as I said before, there is a little bit of a delay between the price of Bitcoin moving up and the DXY coming down because there's so many other things to take into account. But potentially, we could potentially get back up to the levels we are talking about. Remember, we've got two targets, 48,000 and 50,000. And the DXY weakening precludes the Bitcoin price moving up, not by weeks, but by days. So potentially in the next few days, we could see Bitcoin starting to move up. So that was kind of a precursor to what we're talking about today, which is the Bitcoin price. So we're going to get onto the Bitcoin chart in a minute. What we're going to do now is have a look at Mr. Saylor. As you know, Mr. Saylor, Michael Saylor, is probably the greatest DCAer that has ever existed. He has bought another 14,500 Bitcoin for $615 million. There is the man himself. MicroStrategy has added to its Bitcoin stash, which now stands at 189,150 Bitcoin. If you were to ask me, what do I think his long-term goal is? I think it's to own 210,000 Bitcoin, because that is 1% of the total supply of Bitcoin in existence. So if you're going to ask me where I think he's going with all of this, I think he's going to get to 210,000. Whether he gets there with the price appreciation of Bitcoin, I don't know. But remember, he borrows against the assets that he has on his books, which I now believe stands at, is it about 8 billion he's got on the books now? Yeah. So he's currently got $8.1 billion worth of Bitcoin on his books, of which he has made $2.2 billion in profit. Now, what is likely to happen is that he will use some of that as collateral to buy more and more Bitcoin. And I can see him getting to 210,000 probably, I would say, probably by the end of the first quarter next year, if you were to ask me, because he just wants to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And remember, if MicroStrategy own 1% of the total supply of Bitcoin, that's 1% of the total supply that's ever going to exist. And we're not taking into account the fact that there's the Satoshi's million has disappeared, there's lost Bitcoin. All of these things have got to be taken into account. He probably now already owns at least 1% of the total supply that's ever going to exist. But it's worth mentioning, I think the symbolic nature of owning 210,000 Bitcoin is where he's going to make that move. So the price of Bitcoin has risen. He bought in, remember, and his average buy-in price is now 31,000 Bitcoin. Now, if you imagine in the next bull run, if you listen to some commentators who say we might hit 300,000, let's say we hit 310,000, he will have 10x'd the total value of his Bitcoin in however long it took him. I think it's taken him 6 years to accumulate, no, not 6 years, 4 years, sorry, to accumulate this amount of Bitcoin. He'll have 10x'd the money. This will be worth 100 billion, 150 billion. It will be worth an awful lot more than it is now. So Michael Saylor has been amassing Bitcoin, and if you listen to us on this channel, we tell you the same thing. Amass your Bitcoin, because we are going to go to the moon. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but look at where we have moved. We've got previous price action up here, which we're going to break at some point. Remember, when this ETF approval comes in, we're going to see one of two things happen. We are going to see a buy the rumor, sell the news, which is what Cathie Wood expects, or we are going to see some kind of absolutely mammoth pump. I think there's going to be two very distinct movements in the market. One when the news is announced, which could be January the 10th, January the 11th. And then the second movement will be sometime in February when they start trading. Remember, they're not going to trade Bitcoin from January the 10th. That's when they're going to be approved on their Bitcoin ETF. So it's going to take potentially 4 or 5 weeks, which would take us maybe to the 15th of February. Valentine's Day, I think I've got in my head for that date. So it could take us to Valentine's Day, and that's when we're going to start to see, I think, an upward movement. But I do think the markets are going to pump at some point very soon. Now, if we very quickly look at something that's shown up, this takes us to the price target of $50,000. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen today. What I'm saying is that I think everything, all the confluence for me is $50,000. Now, we could be at $50,000 when we are approved, which is January the 10th. We could see, I mean, if you look at Bitcoin, when Bitcoin is in this kind of range, the alts start to pump because Bitcoin is having a bit of a breather. We're taking this from the 6th of December. Today is what's the date today? The 27th. So 3 weeks we've been in this range. 3 weeks we've been in this range. And if you look previously around here, we kind of started to move up, and then we had the huge pump up. In this range, we're bouncing off 44,000. We're failing to break down. We're putting in higher lows, but we're struggling to break 44,000. So for me, when it breaks, as Brogan has pointed out, there is really not a lot between about 46,000 and 49,000. So expect either one of two things: nothing, and we get to the end of the year at 43,500, or fireworks. Now, we've only got 3 days for these fireworks to happen. Could we see fireworks today? You know what I need to do? Just give me a second. I've just realized we need to do this so you can actually see the price in front of you. We're at 43,200. I think this is going to happen. I'm not saying this is going to happen today. I'm saying this is going to happen as a move. Very similar, and I've drawn these before, very similar to these moves we've had down here. This is the next step up. So we had this step up. If I just drag this to show you, these steps are nearly the same in height. And I did draw them with my Van Gogh-esque styles, but I see this move. 48 to 50,000, it's on the cards, it's written, it's going to happen. When, I can't say, but I'm expecting it to be sooner rather than later. So Michael Saylor's buying into Bitcoin. If there's one coin you should be buying and holding in your portfolio, in my opinion, not financial advice of course, it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin should be in everybody's portfolio. It's just it's a long-term store of wealth. That's how I would see it. A long-term store of wealth. It's something which you can pass on to your kids or your grandkids. It's like gold. Gold is something that will accumulate value over time. The difference between gold and Bitcoin is very simply Bitcoin has got to grow to be similar market cap size compared to gold, in my opinion. So we're going to see a lot of movement in Bitcoin. Maybe we're going to see a 4x, a 5x this time. Then following that, maybe we're going to see a 2 or a 3x. The Bitcoin ETFs are an unknown quantity. Potentially we could be at 100,000 by June, or we could still be about 60,000 by June. But over a long period of time, Bitcoin is going to accumulate value. It's an inflation hedge. It's meant to grow over time. It's a scarce asset. There will never be more than 21 million of them. So please, if there's one coin you buy, forget the meme coins, forget Bonk, forget all of them. Hold some Bitcoin in your portfolio. Now, we're going to go on and talk about 2 bits of news to do with Ethereum. And this is why we've seen a pump in Ethereum in the last few days. And that's because when you look at these chains, and remember, a lot of crypto is speculative. A lot of crypto is buying something based on where you think the value is going to be in the future. And you need direction from your leaders. You need direction from Charles. You need direction from Vitalik. You need direction from, try to think of another example, Anatoly, Justin Sun, the people in charge of their chains. You need direction from them. And the reason you need direction is because people want to see that you have a sensible plan of action. So yesterday, Vitalik put 3 ways forward for how to basically, we're not going to call it simplify, fix Ethereum's proof of stake. We're going to fix it. And in all honesty, for the second largest chain in the world to still be talking about how to solve the problem is a bit worrying for me. I said a few weeks ago, there's something not quite right with Ethereum. Well, the next 2 things I'm going to show you are going to solve a few of those problems. One of my major problems is the fact that the layer 2s are still too costly compared to, for example, Cardano, Solana. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And the other one is the proof of stake model just doesn't work properly, in his opinion and in the opinion of his peers. So he's put forward 3 ways to fix the problem. What is the issue? The issue is that there are way more validators than there were a year ago. And everything requires validation. All of the transactions that are added, they require, I think it's 8,192 signatures. There we go. 8,192 signatures are needed. What he wants to do is create either a higher number of Ethereum to create a validator, because at the minute you need 32 Ethereum to have a validator. Now bear in mind, that's still $70,000 to become a validator. I don't know whether that's enough or not. The second way is to create 2 different types of layers of validator with different perimeters. That's his second option. His third option is that you need 8,192 signatures from the pool of validators, so you don't need to validate them all. This is the problem. Since the merge, they've gone from 430,000 validators to 895. It's doubled. So it's a good problem to have, because 895,000 validators means there's a great deal of decentralization. Probably more than Solana, probably more than Cardano. I don't have the numbers, but it's a good number. I mean, we're talking about nearly 1 million validators. It's a good number to have. But there are problems, and this is what he's trying to address. So the pump that you have seen today and yesterday in Ethereum, I attribute to this, which is Vitalik showing a roadmap with 3 solutions to the problem. The second thing is the Cancun upgrade. And the Cancun upgrade is where you're now seeing all of the layer 2 prices pumping. And why is it pumping? Because Cancun, or Cancun, depending on how you want to pronounce it, is aimed at reducing the fees for the layer 2s. So if we look down here, Optimism, Arbitrum 1, Polygon, those are the 3 main ones that I'm going to talk about. Look at what the fees are. So when I'm carrying out a transaction, I've used Arbitrum 1, and I've also used Polygon in the past, but when I've used Arbitrum 1, I am being charged 38 cents for the transaction. Now, if Arbitrum 1 are being charged 26 cents, they're only making 12 cents on that transaction. And a few days ago I spoke, and it was Tariq I was talking to about this, and it was, how are the layer 2s going to make any money when Ethereum reduces its fees? That was the big worry. This kind of solves that problem. Arbitrum are going to be charged 3 cents, Polygon 2 cents, Optimism 4 cents. I mean, that is a 90% reduction in fees, which means Optimism can go from charging 50 to 20 cents a transaction and still make more money. So this is why you're seeing a pump in the layer 2s that are sitting on top of Ethereum. So in the last 2 days, in terms of news, the Ethereum news, massively bullish, fixing the proof of stake, or trying to fix the proof of stake problem, number one. And number two, how are these layer 2s going to survive if the fees are reduced? How are they going to cope? Both of those have now been answered. And that is why I think you're seeing such a pump in Ethereum. It's up 6% in the last 24 hours. And look, I mean, we're not talking about 6% on a market cap of $1 billion. We're talking about 6% on a market cap of 288 billion. That's a huge amount. That's a 12 billion increase in value on Ethereum. It's brought it up to nearly $2,400. So that's why I think that's happened. And for me, it's great news, especially for the layer 2s. If you hold the layer 2s, let me go to the last 24 hours. So if you go down here, Arbitrum is up 18%, Optimism is up 14%. I believe there is another one in here which should also be up, which I can't see. But for me, Arbitrum, Optimism, both very... Oh, it was, of course, Matic. Matic had the big pump as well. So all of the three major layer 2s have pumped massively in the last 48 hours, I would say. And this is the reason why. So all good news for Ethereum. If you are a holder, fantastic. We're going to have a quick look at the charts now of Ethereum, which reminds me I should probably now drop another box. So before we get on to look at the chart for Ethereum, I'm going to drop some more boxes. Where are we? Let's drop this. And while I'm doing this, don't forget the most important thing you can do to help us is like and subscribe. So if you're already following us, if you're already subscribed to us, make sure. If you're not following us, please follow us. We stream every day, roughly 11 o'clock every day. Although some days we're a little bit later than others, but we do aim to stream at 11 o'clock every day. Right, that's one done. Let me go over here and drop another box. 1 second. This just takes a little bit of time. Oh, come on. Why is this not loading? Let me hit refresh. Try again. Just bear with me. I am just trying to drop the boxes now, and then we can get cracking. And remember, if you're not watching on a platform which is an exchange, we've got all the links underneath so you can come and join us. Right, everybody's now had a box dropped. Happy days. Let's get back to the charts. So as we can see, if we narrow this down a little bit, again, very similar to Bitcoin in terms of since the DXY started to fall, the DXY started to fall, Ethereum's been following the same kind of pattern that Bitcoin has, this upward movement through this channel. Yeah, it's broken out a few times, but it has honored this channel. Yes, we've broken down, and now look where we are. We're back in the same channel. We've been in this channel for 2 months, and it hasn't held in certain instances here. We've had a breakout, we've had a breakdown, but on the whole, this channel has held. Where are we going to go? Well, if you go back in time, you can look at other areas of price action. And again, we can look at this area here as probably the next target which of course comes in quite nicely at $2,507 would be the next target. But as you can see here with Brogan's beautifully drawn lines, we're sitting at exactly $2,393, which is exactly on this line here. So if we break up, we'll go to the next line up, which is 2,500 and change. So that's where we are. Everything else is looking fairly positive. The RSI isn't looking too bad. Down here, it's coming up. So I would expect potentially some kind of movement up here between now and the end of the year. Very similar to Bitcoin, as you'd expect, because they're both the two major caps. So we're going to move on because, again, one of those things where we're going to completely run out of time and we're not going to be able to talk too much about ADA or Grand Theft Auto. So this is we've got two articles actually. I'm going to bring them both up for you. Let's move over and bring this one up. So these are the two articles we're going to talk about. One is to do with the ambition of Cardano next year, and the second is to do with the price action. And as you know, if you've been watching us, we are fans of Cardano. I think it's given a bad rap because it's got sexy brothers, it's got Solana, and it's got Ethereum. They're both sexy brothers. They both go out, they both do their thing, and then Cardano, it's just there. It's the one that sits at home, reads the science magazines, and goes looking for dinosaur bones. That's the problem with Cardano. You've got Charles Hoskinson, who's an academic, who is not super interested in shilling his tokens and shilling his projects. He just wants to build the best layer one he can. And that's why you don't see the price action on Cardano, in my opinion, that you see on Solana. So we'll talk about the price action first. This is predicting a 75-cent ADA. I'm not sure there's going to be a pullback. I just don't see it right now, but we'll see what he has to say. The daily chart shows rejection candles on both sides, indicating high volatility and no indication from buyers or sellers. However, this consolidation developed into a pennant pattern, indicating that the buyers have an opportunity to resume the recovery trend. Is ADA ready to hit 80 cents? Well, I've got my own price action on the charts, which we're going to look at in a second. A bullish breakout from the triangle pattern will trigger a rally. The midline of the Bollinger Band indicator continues to offer strong pullback support, and the trading volume is 829 million, which is fairly decent. After witnessing an aggressive recovery in the last 2 months, Cardano price hit a major roadblock at 68 cents. However, the consolidation resonating within two converging trend lines shows the formation of a bullish pennant pattern. This chart pattern, often spotted in between established rallies, indicates the buyers are having a mild breather to revive the recovery rally. We've seen exactly the same thing on Bitcoin. Now, Brogan talks a lot about confluence. Confluence is basically seeing the same thing in multiple ways, and when you do that, it adds more confidence to what you're about to do. So for me, this also applies to looking at other major currencies. So if I see Bitcoin or Ethereum looking to move up, I would expect the layer 2s associated with Ethereum, or the whole market, if it's associated with Bitcoin, moving in the same direction. If Bitcoin was looking bearish, I'd be looking at an $85, $90 Solana. If Bitcoin is looking bullish, I'd be looking at $120, $130 Solana. Everything moves with the waves. So what I did was I drew my own kind of pennant here, and as you can see, this takes us to, is that 82 cents, I think? Where have I got this from? Very similar to the Bitcoin chart. We have these lines. I haven't drawn it all the way down here. I've drawn it to the last area here, and we drive it up to the 82 cents was where I would see. We have a line here which Brogan's drawn at 78 cents. If we drag this down, I mean, I think 80 cents would be the next level for me, and that is 20% from here. A 20% movement potentially on the cards for Cardano. Now, remember what we've said about Vitalik. Vitalik's direction has brought the momentum back to Ethereum. His solutions for the staking, the impending reduction in fees being charged to layer 2s, all of these things have been bullish for Ethereum. And now we're going to look at this. For me, is massively exciting, not just for Cardano, but for Mina, and I believe it's also Arbitrum. So the top Cardano developer teases blockchain's ambitious vision. Now this, for me, this should have pumped Cardano way more than it did. So Sebastian Guillemot has provided insight into the blockchain's ambitious vision for next year. Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. With Ethereum sentiments beginning in the dumps right now, I'd just like to say working with Arbitrum has been a great experience. Expect more projects that combine Arbitrum with Cardano and Mina in 2024. In the wake of the recent downturn in ETH sentiment, Guillemot mentioned that he had great experience working with Arbitrum. Guillemot, who co-founded Payme Studios and DC Spark, is known for advancing noticeable Layer 2 solutions. Cardano users can play Arbitrum games. Earlier this year, they released an L2 solution dubbed Payme Engine that facilitates on-chain gaming experiences for users. The L2 framework, which initially focused on Ethereum-based platforms, is almost done integrating with Cardano. The integration will make it possible for Cardano users to play games developed on the Arbitrum network. Remember, Arbitrum is a layer 2 of Ethereum. This is connecting Cardano to a layer 2, which is on Ethereum. Just think about that for a second. We always talk about, at this moment in time, we have 25 different spiders webs. None of them really connected. If we start to build interoperability between Cardano, Ethereum, Solana, remember, Charles has talked in the past about providing proof of stake solutions to Solana, so you could earn Solana for staking your Cardano. If you get a combination of Cardano, Solana, Ethereum working together, so you, the end user, don't have to keep jumping chains, using wormholes, doing all of these complicated things, you suddenly have an easier to use interface that then when retail come along, they don't need to know they're on Arbitrum or Optimism or Cardano or Matic. They just want to play a game, or they just want to go and use a DeFi platform or whatever it might be. So the blog post noted that though the layer 1 networks have more users and liquidity, they are still lagging behind in terms of scaling, do not support mass multiplayer online games. Very true. We know if you wanted to play Star Atlas, which is on Solana, if you wanted to try and use that on Ethereum, it wouldn't work. There's just not enough transactional capacity there to cope with a game of that size. You need a specific layer 1 or a specific layer 2 that can deal with mass throughput, and that's where Solana comes along. So we've talked about Cardano, we've talked about Arbitrum, now we're going to talk about Mina. So Mina is the potential game changer for its zero knowledge layer. The blog post emphasized they need to make the Mina protocol scale. So this is again one of the issues is we're still very early, and lots of these protocols and lots of these platforms maybe can cope with 3,000 or 4,000 transactions a second. We need them to be 10x in, 100x in that if we're going to use them to power gaming. That's where all the volume is going to come from. Forget DeFi, forget all of these other things. A combination of the metaverse and gaming is where all of the transactions are going to come from. So it's partners with Zacco Labs to develop an L2 scaling solution for Mina protocol. According to the blog post, the development team will build an account abstraction model inside the Mina protocol that will allow other blockchain users to play games without having a Mina wallet. Again, massive development. As ADA enthusiasts await the implementation of this vision, the cryptocurrency is currently trading at 60 cents, now 65 cents. So this is early. This isn't today. This is next year. Holding Cardano in your portfolio is not the worst thing you could do, in my opinion. I think Cardano is about my 4th or 5th biggest bag of crypto because it's been built in the right way, but it does lack users compared to Solana. Solana is now blowing everybody out of the water because it's the kid with the football in the playground. Everybody wants to play with them because they've got the ball. But don't fade Matic, don't fade Cardano just because they're not in the news. We remember what we say, we try and find things for you that are outside of the news. It's difficult in a bull market for us to point at projects and tell you that this is going to be a success, because when everything pumps, we're either going to look like we've got a crystal ball, or, well, we're only saying that because it's pumping. So it's very difficult for us to pick out gems like this. But something like this that opens Cardano up to layer 2s on Ethereum is massive for Cardano. What we'd love to see now is some kind of multi-chain staking solution from Cardano, where you can stake your Cardano and earn different cryptocurrencies for staking your Cardano. That would also be a massive sea change in Cardano. Remember, Cardano, no matter what anybody says, it's got the best staking solution in the world. Nobody's got a staking solution as good as Cardano. Even Ethereum and Vitalik have admitted that Cardano is the best place, has the best staking. So if you could utilize that staking mechanism to earn Solana, to earn layer 2 tokens, to earn tokens on smaller chains, new up and coming chains, it would be absolutely massive for Cardano. You wouldn't be talking about 60 cents. You'd be talking about $6, $8, $10 for that token, because of the value that you would gain from holding that token. The asset would appreciate in value so quickly that you won't see it coming. And, you know, I'm not saying we're going to see a Cardano run like we've seen the Solana run, because that's for different reasons. But over a long period of time, maybe 2 or 3 years, you're going to see an accumulation in value of Cardano. It's never going to catch Ethereum, but it will do multiples of where it is today. So don't fade Cardano. Arbitrum and Optimism, my worries about them have been alleviated somewhat now that we've seen what's going to happen with the fees. I was worried that they were going to become not quite extinct, but they're going to be starved of revenue. And when you starve a chain of revenue, you can't pay the developers to build. If you can't pay the developers to build, you don't add utility. If you don't have utility, users go elsewhere. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now that we can see where the profits are going to come from for these layer 2s, they're going to be able to pay their developers. The price of Ethereum going up increases the value of the transactions, which means they get more money. And remember, Ethereum is $2,400. We're not even in the bull run yet. We're at the beginning of the bull run, but not in the bull run yet. Imagine when Ethereum is at $10,000 or $9,000. Imagine what the revenue model is going to look like for Arbitrum and Optimism. It's going to look very good, and they'll be able to pay developers, because developers get paid in fiat. Well, they don't get paid in fiat, they get paid in Ethereum, but they get paid in Ethereum based on the fiat value of that Ethereum. So today they might get paid 1 Ethereum a month, but in 2 years' time they might be being paid 1/4 of Ethereum a month. So suddenly your vault of Ethereum increases in value 4 or 5-fold, which means you can build out and you can build out. So it's a nice self-fulfilling prophecy. Now we've got 4 minutes. I can't believe we've managed to do it. We're going to skip the article about money being taken. We're going to move straight on to have a look at now. There's the interesting thing for me about this is Fortnite and GTA 6. Are they an existential threat to Decentraland and Sandbox? What you've got here is you have 2 already massive user bases of gamers that play Fortnite every day, play Grand Theft Auto 5, maybe not every day, every week, but you might have a combined total of 500 million players. Sandbox and Decentraland struggle to get 10,000 daily users, 20,000 daily users. If Fortnite, in its own way, and GTA 6 in its own way, built out a metaverse solution, which one's going to be a success? Sandbox or GTA? Decentraland or Fortnite? That's the question you've got to ask yourself. We'll go through the article and then I'll give you my opinion at the end. Web3 geeks keep ranting about the metaverse, so it's ironic that Web2 games might be the first to bring us functional versions of it in 2024 and 2025. Disruptive innovation commonly undergoes a pattern of gradual evolution. It develops and matures. That has been clearly visible in the shift from Web 2 to Web 3 when it comes to the metaverse. The metaverse didn't emerge out of nothing, rather it's been evolving for years, derived primarily from Web 2 video games. This lag by Web 3 is a natural part of the tech evolutionary cycle. Let's forget Uber. We don't need to talk about Uber. We don't need to talk about this. Fortnite, the world has realised it's possible to create interoperability between different brands and has seen it can be fun. Fortnite achieves interoperability through commercial agreements in the open metaverse. This would occur through blockchain assets. So we've been saying on this channel, ever since we started this channel, we've been using Fortnite as the example of how you could create NFTs based on the skins, based on the dances, based on the avatars, based on all of these different things. Fortnite is primed to be an asset, a user-owned asset-based game. GTA 6 is the same. GTA 6 has the added benefit of having a massive economy that you could build on top of it straight away because you've got the bucks that you have in Fortnite. I know you have V-Bucks in Fortnite. It's not the same as the economy you would have in GTA 6 with all of the property assets, with all of the vehicle assets, everything else. You could build an auction house over there and it would be ready to go. When you enter Fortnite, you can encounter characters from Naruto, Rick and Morty, Dragon Ball, Star Wars, not to mention hundreds of other universes. Fortnite went even further in its latest update, bringing not only characters but other games to its platform, fulfilling a prediction that Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney made years ago. Game modes were incorporated that allow users to play a racing mode from Rocket League, Guitar Hero mode, with artists including The Weeknd and Machine Gun Kelly. Now, again, one of the things that Fortnite can do because of its size and its mass is it can create its own universe. And when it does that, it transcends being a Clash Royale game. It transcends being a shoot 'em up. What does that do? That brings more people in that don't necessarily want to play that type of game. It will attract Guitar Hero players. It will attract people that like to play Rocket League or Mario Karts or whatever it might be. And all they have to do is go and copy the best 5 selling games of all time and bring them into Fortnite in their own Fortnite style way. But then the next stage is that you could play as Optimus Prime and you could be in Fortnite shooting things as Optimus Prime. You can then go out of that and you can go and play a racing game and you can drive around as a truck. Or you can go and play Guitar Hero as Optimus Prime. And suddenly your assets are transferable from one game to another. Well, isn't that what the metaverse is about? Isn't that the entire point of the metaverse? Is to have assets that can transverse from one game to another. And the interoperability is being built within Fortnite. It's not currently available to take out of Fortnite and put into Call of Duty or put into Grand Theft Auto. But that's a switch. That is one missing element. So if Riot Games sat down with Epic Games and discussed fleshing out a GTA 6 Fortnite collab where you could play as Fortnite characters in GTA 6 or you could play as GTA 6 characters in Fortnite, suddenly You've got an interoperable metaverse. And then where is the place for Sandbox? Where is the place for Decentraland? What developments have we seen in the last 2 years from either of these platforms? What have they done? They've got some collabs, and McDonald's have bought land there, and what's it called, Balenciaga and people like that. They've all got land there. But what has anybody watching this ever been in Sandbox or Decentraland? And then have any of you been in Fortnite and Grand Theft Auto? And I would argue that 90% of you have played one of those two games, and I would guarantee 90% of you have never been in Sandbox or Decentraland. So my argument is that Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto are both existential threats to the existing metaverses we have. And for me, that would mean that those tokens might not do as well as people expect. So what I would be doing if I was Sandbox and Decentraland is trying to get into bed with one of these people. Maybe Fortnite. Maybe try and have a collab with Sandbox so you can bring the Fortnite characters in. Because if you've got 500 million people playing your games and you've got 6,000 people playing your games, I know which one of those two is going to be a success in the future, and it ain't going to be Sandbox. We've managed to do it on time. So what we're going to do now is we are going to move on with the quiz. Now, for those of you that are new here, we are going to turn off one of our streams, and then we're going to get on with the quiz. So we are going to put the stream on pause for a second, turn one of the streams off, and when we come back, we're going to do the quiz. Remember, if you are watching somewhere which is not an exchange, you will see the links below that will allow you to join the exchange. Why do you need to come and watch us on one of the exchanges? Because we give away crypto every stream. We don't give away crypto